Section 2. You will hear a training officer giving a talk to new staff who will be working at the information desk at an airport. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen and answer questions 11 to 15.
Now, when you're working at the information desk in the arrivals section of the airport, one of the most common questions people ask is, what's the best way to get to their hotel or to a particular address once they leave the airport? The answer you give them depends on a number of factors, so I'm going to give you a few general tips to help you deal with these issues by taking the case of a typical destination for the average traveller. After a long flight, people are often tired and want to get to their final destination as soon as possible. You'd think that the quickest way would be to take a taxi, but because of traffic congestion, it turns out that it's usually better to take the train. Trains are cheaper than taxis, and taxis get caught in traffic jams, and they can't go through red lights. For some passengers, the most important consideration is to take a means of transport that is going to run according to schedule. Now, you would think that the train would be the best one for this. But as the airport train is operated by a private company, there have been a lot of problems integrating its running times with the publicly owned train network, and this has resulted in a lot of delays. Surveys on travelling to and from the airport have found that minibuses are the most dependable form of transport. There are other considerations too. If a person wants a comfortable ride with plenty of legroom after a long flight in a cramped seat, it'd be best for them to take one of the large air-conditioned buses. It's a new fleet with plenty of space for luggage, and on top of that, they're much cheaper than taxis. Some passengers are far more concerned about security. Of course, we can't guarantee that they won't be robbed or even cheated by a dishonest driver, so I think for them the best thing to do is to get someone who they know and trust to pick them up in their car. Finally, there's also the green traveller, who wants to cause the least possible pollution. Now, obviously, we can't tell them to walk because it's too far, particularly with heavy luggage. You might guess that public transport would be the cleanest way to travel, but it turns out that it's taxis, and that's because of the type of fuel they use. They're also, not surprisingly, the most popular choice of business people.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
So far, we've been focusing on the arrivals section of the airport. Now we're going to be looking at the departures section. You've all got a copy of the floor plan of the departures section of the airport. Because of the recent renovations, a lot of people are disoriented when they see it for the first time, so you need to be familiar with the new layout. At the bottom of the floor plan, you can see where the passengers check in. They then go through security control, and in front of them is the information desk, right in the middle of the whole floor plan. Just to the right of the information desk, there's a news agency where you can buy newspapers and magazines. For those who like to do a bit of shopping, to the left of the information desk we have a jewellery store. It's well worth a look at. And a well-stocked electronics goods shop, and between those two there is a pharmacy. There used to be a dress shop in that position. At the top right-hand corner of the diagram, we have the waiting lounge and the exit to the planes. In the top left-hand corner are the public toilets. You can use those toilets, or if you like, there are also staff facilities near the bookshop, but you'll need to get the key. Just behind the information desk, we have some food outlets, and over to the right, next to the waiting lounge, is a cafe. When the renovations are completed, it will function as an internet cafe. At most airports, you get people congregating on the footpath smoking, which is unpleasant for the non-smokers entering and leaving the building. For that reason, we've set up a dedicated smoking room inside the terminal next to the bookshop. It's well ventilated and looks out onto the tarmac. The original plan was to put a wine bar next to the bookshop, but there were problems with the licensing laws. I'd encourage you to walk around the airport to familiarize yourselves with the layout, so that you can more easily handle passengers' inquiries.
That is the end of Section 2. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Now turn to Section 3.